Welcome to Viewpoints with Brenda. I'm your host, Brenda Ntambirwechi, and on this podcast, you'll hear plenty of conversations with African professionals, change makers, innovators, influencers, and entrepreneurs from all sectors. My guest today is Michael Niyitegeka, the Program Director, Refractory at Clark International University in Uganda and the ICDL Africa Country Manager for Uganda. He has over 20 years of working experience in both the private and public sectors, including with Makerere University for 12 years in varied capacities as a researcher, trainer, and head of corporate relations. He has also worked with coffee exporting firms, managing supply-side operations in Western Uganda. Michael has extensive consulting experience with government, private, regional, and international institutions. Michael is passionate and devoted to human capital development for the ICT sector in Uganda. Under Refractory, which is his flagship project, he has trained over 250 junior developers with an 80% placement rate in the ecosystem in the last 3 years. Michael is also a Franklin Covey certified facilitator and a Rotarian, and is passionate about mentoring the next generation of technology business leaders. Michael, welcome to the podcast. It's such an honor to have you.
Pleasure is all mine, Brenda. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I've been counting down as well. So, every time the conversations about the future of work, the conversation is always negative or what the downside will be. People are focusing on loss of jobs as opposed to what the technology advantages would be. So I want to reframe this conversation and focus more on skilling and what sort of skilling we need to do for the workforce on the continent for the future of work. So what has been your experience in terms of what employers now need in relation to digital skills?
It depends on function. Brenda, every job you're going to work with or in requires a certain level of digital competence. And I'm pretty sure even in your practice, I have met lawyers who are asking me, how can I use PowerPoint professionally? How can I use Excel or spreadsheets professionally? Even Microsoft Word, how can I use it professionally? And yet these are things that we're not taught at university. If we are, 80% of it is theory and about 20% is practice. So there's that category of entry-level workforce-related digital skills that everybody ought to have. And we call those productivity skills. So your typical office applications, ability to work with the internet, ability to collaborate, ability to navigate the different tools for social media and different learning platforms. So those are productivity skills. And everybody ought to have that. I mean, if you graduate out of university, if you're going to find a job and you can't ably use, let's say, the Office suite or even Google very well, you're not ready for the world of work. And then, of course, the advanced skills. The advanced skills would be your typical software engineering, ability to use data and manipulate data. Those are advanced. As we go along, we all need to be able to understand some of these tools and skills.
So, Mike, you are very passionate about skilling, especially in the tech sector. Would you say that our curriculum in our traditional African schools and tertiary institutions has had a hand in the tech skills gap on the continent?
Largely, yes, Brenda. One of the challenges we've had is we've not contextualized our skill requirement. So I'll give an example. If you look at the computing framework that National Council of Higher Education uses, it mirrors the close to the American framework, which is from the Association of Computing Machinery. And I remember when I was still at Makerere, we developed the different programs, IT, information systems, computer science, computer engineering, and software engineering of that framework, which was really out of the US or the developed world. And to a large extent, you'd say about 80% of that framework replicated in how we are teaching stuff here, or the content that we are teaching. But we're dealing with a very unique environment, Brenda. So let me give an example. In the US or Europe, each of the 5 computing disciplines And the 5 computing disciplines are information systems, information technology, computer science, computer engineering, software engineering. Each of these are standalone industries. So they're well structured. You know when you graduate, you're going to get into this. If you're a computer scientist, you will get into this role as a computer scientist. Come back home. When everybody graduates from all these disciplines, they are all converging in a small place called some web applications. So they're doing some bit of software engineering. You will get very limited, and especially now with a lot of cloud, you're getting a minimal information tech heavy stuff because the technology is not significant. Then information system is also changing significantly, especially most of the applications are now running off the cloud. So back to your question, where is the gap? The gap is that we have not understood our industries and therefore realign our curricula to respond to those gaps. And I guess that's one of the things we try to respond to within, let's say, Refactory. The other thing I'll tell you, Brenda, and really I have no grudges to agree here, is that one of the challenges that we have, because we're dealing with a very young industry, majority of the people that are teaching in our universities have limited, to a large extent, or no working experience. So you find somebody who's teaching a program, let's say software engineering principles, the person has never worked in industry anywhere, but they passed with a first-class degree, went on and did a master's degree, probably went on and did a PhD. But most of the stuff they're teaching is stuff that has come from a textbook. But what that means, even when you're teaching this content, you can't contextualize it for somebody to get to understand that if you're building a website for a church, which is a small organization in this ecosystem, it won't be the same like the way you're building a website for a company in the US. And most of these textbooks are really hinged off the experiences in the US or Europe.
That was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you about what sort of policy changes we need to see in relation to curricula, because, as you said, we don't seem to understand the gap, or, no offense to anybody, the people teaching sometimes do not have the experience. So from a policy perspective, what can we do?
I'll share an experience I had. So at Clark International University, one of the things I really tried to do was to say, okay, after realizing that we have 5 different disciplines of computing, but then the industry is not that structured, I said, can we design our own computing degree? And it doesn't have to fall in the structure of information systems, computer science. Can we define our own? And so I submitted this program to National Council of Higher Education. I think the first name was the Bachelor of Applied Computing. We had a few issues. We changed the name to a Bachelor of Applied Computing Technologies. So when we submitted it, one of the reviewers returned a comment and said what used to be taught like an introductory programming language. And the comment they gave was that I should include this. Now, that specific programming language ceased to be, that time it had been, like industry had stopped using it about 7 years ago. Now this was in 2016. But somebody sends a comment and says, this program, you should include the following. And I'm like, but why should I include it if industry has stopped using it? So one of the things that I hope we can achieve is at curriculum review, and I think there's been steps in that direction, to get industry to have an opinion. Either industry helps you define a framework, and whoever is submitting curricula should subject themselves to that particular framework, or industry comes in to review the content. They're part of the reviewing team for that curricula before National Council of Higher Education clears it for certification. And that way, we'll probably get a little bit more proactive and begin to see where is the industry going. I mean, this thing bothers me, Brenda. So let me give an example.
Yeah.
I think one time on Twitter, I asked a question. I said, with the years we've had mobile money in our ecosystem, how come we don't have a module in most of the programs, if any, that is teaching mobile money, be it in business, be it in computing? And yet, 80% of the applications that are coming in our ecosystem will tend to be mobile money dependent or will integrate with mobile money. So there are things that are happening within our context that we need to pay attention to, but they seem to be there and we're not using them to teach our students.
I totally see what you're saying. And you spoke briefly about Refactory, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. Could you tell me more about what you're doing with Refactory?
So Refactory for me was a response to a gap that I had seen while I was teaching at Makerere. We were training, we were doing exceptionally well. From numbers, guys were coming out, getting degrees, first-class degrees, and so we're doing well. But for me, what used to bother me, Brenda, was that I felt kind of a withdrawal when I would meet students who would say, man, I haven't found work. And yet I would meet people in industry and they would say, we are looking for people to hire, but we can't find them. And so I'm like, but there must be something fundamentally wrong. We can't be training these numbers. And yet industry is complaining on the other end. I'd also met quite a number of people that had come because we had prided ourselves as the university that we're graduating. Our faculty had close to 5,000 students. I mean, all the numbers seem to be going well. And so companies were coming in to set up in Uganda with the hope that talent won't be an issue. To the contrary, it was a big issue. But then the people that we were working with at university were not responsive to a large extent to the circumstances within the industry. That gap for me became a pain point. I kept on asking myself, what can we do? And in 2013, I leave university and decide to go out and try to see what is happening. My leaving university was more of saying, look, I've come to the realization I'm not cut for academics. I appreciated that. I was not cut for academics. I said, let me go and try my talents elsewhere. So I tried to engage. Now, one of the things that became apparent, Brenda, was that industry was looking for people that are ready to work. However, one company told me, that was Labremas. Labremas told me, they said, it takes them 1.5 years to pick a graduate from university, prepare them to start work, and get them ready to become productive. 1.5 years. Now, what that means is that you're paying this person a salary, you're giving them all the entitlements in terms of medical and all that kind of stuff, but in terms of their contribution to your bottom line, minimal. And so companies were like, it doesn't make sense, so we'd rather go to India and pick talent elsewhere. But they also knew that there was a possibility. And so the more I had those opportunities, the more I said, okay, guys, I remember I called about 4 companies. I said, so if you're to hire a software engineer, what are the 3 things you'd look out for? You'll be surprised. Top of the list was not technical skills. Top of the list was ability to learn. Why? Because technology changes extremely fast. So you can't say, I'm just going to become an expert in this. The second thing they were looking for was the life skills, communication, teamwork. And number 3 were technical skills. So there I was like, well, let me design a short program that addresses those things. They kept on giving us feedback, pay attention to this, change this. And in 2018, we were able to get Refactory launched early 2019. That's when we hit the road running with Factory after we had done a significant amount of investment in trying to understand what employers are looking for. And the results speak for themselves. In the intro, you said we have about 80, it's now about close to 90% placement. We cannot meet the requirement, which is a good thing. So if we look at the requests that are coming in and what we are graduating, the demand seems to be surpassing our supply. So we need to style up. We need to get more people enrolling into the programs and sitting and going through. So it's a good place to be, Brenda.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, I've been following this journey for long, you know that. What you've told me is very important about what you're doing in relation to the skills gap. Are the people you're placing, are they staying in Uganda or on the continent? Are they going abroad? And if they're going abroad, what can we do to retain more developers and more tech talent on the continent?
So we have a couple of guys who are working from Uganda, but working for companies out of Uganda. Last year, before the second wave, I met somebody from Nigeria who told me, says, we no longer care where you're located. It's no longer an issue. All we need is your productivity. So if you have access to good internet, if you have access to a good device, you're good to go. If you have the skill and you can commit, you're good to go. I have people that I know that are working for companies in the UK, but they're based in Uganda. So we're not seeing people physically leaving the country, but they are working for companies out of the country, which is a beautiful thing. And we're also seeing the students who go into these companies, but they're not hopping from one company to another. So the opportunities are there, Brenda. The companies are looking for talent, and they could actually even match some of the pay to a large extent, only if the people that they hire can maintain a level of productivity. So the opportunities are here. We have quite a number of opportunities that we can speak to. I think in the last 2 months, in the last 3 weeks, I have seen adverts for companies looking for close to 150 software developers. And I'm pretty sure they're going to struggle. So they'll probably headhunt or they will snatch from someone else, but the opportunities are here and they're good opportunities.
And speaking about demand, so what can we do as Africans to continue growing tech talent at scale?
So there are a couple of things that need to be done. The first thing is to prepare tech talent is not cheap. I will tell you from the experience I've had at Refactory, if it weren't to be for a grant that we got from the Norwegian government, we probably would have, I don't want to say closed, but we would be struggling. Why? Because for you to get good facilitators, they must be people that have experience in industry. And you don't bring them and you pay them peanuts. You must pay them something close to what they would be charging as consultants. Now, the unfortunate bit is that many of the people that have the passion, they don't have a lot of resources at their disposal to spend on some of these programs. A number of people that who have gone through our program confess to us that their parents tell them, you finish your degree, that is it. Anything extra, you're on your own. So we also have to find a way of subsidizing. I'll give an example. Refactory, people are paying, it is a subsidized program, but they're paying about maybe $300. A similar program in Kenya is going for about $1,700. A similar program in Nigeria is going for about $3,000. A similar program in the UK is about £5,000. I don't know if you're getting the mix.
Yeah.
Match for match, close to match for match.
Yeah.
Now, in our economy, you can't. When we try to engage entities like government and say, help us here because we are training higher level skill, help us, come in and give us some support. We go through some bit of dynamics back and forth and people asking you all sorts of things. Is this an innovation? Like, if you cannot get it, then probably we don't need to have this conversation. So the first thing I would say is that governments need to recognize this. That's why governments like Rwanda are able to engage entities like Andela to come and train talent there because they know the talent that is trained in Rwanda will return that investment even 30 times. So governments need to come in. Two is that some of our development partners are driven by numbers. You'll get a grant application or a grant opportunity, but they're telling you they want you to train maybe 50,000 people in, let's say, 5 years. Honestly, unless I'm training people how to make Rolex, I can't train 50,000 software developers in 5 years at scale, and you expect me to deliver those jobs like a typical factory if you want people going to work. So we've had some pushback on some of the opportunities that come in for funding. And we tell them, look, we want to see more money, we want to train more people, but your cost per trainee is so low for me to commit to deliver these numbers for you. That's where we have some gaps, but the opportunities are there. I am pretty sure, Brenda, if people had disposable income, people would be lining up on our programs, but they can't. Even when we attempt to do scholarships, especially now that people are doing remote learning. People tell you, but I don't have a laptop. And then you have ridiculous costs, internet, that make it even more complicated for people to be part of this ecosystem. At a national level, we need to look at this from a very strategic direction and not like you're thinking about setting up markets or something like that.
So earlier on, when we started the conversation, we talked about basic digital skills that you need for the workplace.
Yes.
And having the right ones. To be honest, yes, much as Africa has a very young population, we also have a very aging workforce. There's a bit of an imbalance. There's a bit of old people working, and then there's the young workforce. And for the older ones, what can be done in the workplace to reduce the skills gap?
I think, Brenda, there are opportunities and there are programs that enable them to become productive with the tools that they have. The first thing that the older persons need to do is to change attitude. And I'm saying this because I see it quite a lot. So you go to them and you say, we would like to introduce this program, introducing you to digital skills and XYZ. They're like, those are for you people. They don't realize that even when they retire, they are most probably going to go into work, and the closest device they're going to work with is a computing device or even a smartphone. So upskilling is going to be one of the things I would actually recommend, and say, understand how technology works. We're not saying become a guru, no. Understand how technology works. And there are programs that expose you to how technology works. One of the things we're going to start this year is a digital transformation leadership program that is really focusing on leaders. And that is intended to help leaders to see the bigger picture of technology and see how they can get their businesses and get their people aligned to technology and deliver it. I hope that will become kind of catalytic in terms of, can we do this? Can we do that? That kind of thing. The next thing I would say is, so programs like ICDL do have specific programs, training. We have one particular module called Digital Citizen. And that Digital Citizen module introduces you to technology from a very entry level for you to understand that if I am a citizen, how can I best use technology? And so there are these opportunities that can actually be leveraged on. The third thing I would say is, don't fear technology. I have seen quite a number of parents who will have an email because they were doing one thing, but they will never check their emails, or have smartphones, but they are using, let's say, 2% of the smartphone capability. So one of the things I encourage is just be curious. Have some level of curiosity to know how you think could be of value to you. I hope that makes sense.
It really does.
It's quite a difficult lot. I mean, honestly, really, we're trying to help professors get their publications online. Oh my God. What an experience where professor says, why do you want my publications online? Why? And then you go through a process of trying to explain to them that, you know what, when they're online, people get to see them, and as they see them, create a number of opportunities, X, Y, Z, and then introduce them to things like LinkedIn. And like, I don't want to be found.
Yeah, it's going to take a mindset change.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about something you're really passionate about, which is Rotary.
Yes.
Michael, we see you running like a hunter. Participating in everything Rotary related. So I just wanted you to tell me and everybody who's listening why Rotary is so important to you. So
I got in touch with Rotary when I was still at university, and my guardian pastor last year was a Rotarian, and I got an opportunity to go with him every time they had the community outreach initiative. And there were these women that they were supporting, I think in Imperial, and I think they're giving them haifas or something. Haifas. This was the Rotary Club of Kololo. And for me, I was seeing these men and women who in all aspects seem to be accomplished, but seem to be doing this with a lot of zeal, with a lot of passion. And then got to know a little bit more about service above self, that it's not really about what you do or the position you hold in society, but what is it that you can do in society that you will be remembered for. And so that spoke to me, that connected with me. And also because it was neutral. It was not political, it was not religious, it was neutral. So in there I would find a Muslim, I would find opposition, I would find government. Everybody seemed to be there. One mission, service above self. And the more I got in, the more I got to appreciate that it's not about me, it's not about my immediate family, it's about those that are less privileged that we reach out to serve. And that's why Rotary now is branded People of Action, that we act on those challenges in society that nobody wants, or if they are, not very many people are paying attention to. That's dear to me because I may not have much in terms of money to give, but I have time to go and be part of a community initiative. But even beyond being of value to society is also an opportunity for me to meet people in networks beyond the ones that, let's say, I work with or that I spend time with. So it's one community of people passionate to serve beyond the call of duty. And that speaks to me.
Wow, Michael, I've enjoyed this conversation. I really enjoyed speaking with you. I mean, I know we go way back,
yes,
but it's always a pleasure speaking to you and just tapping into your wealth of knowledge. So I'm really honored that you took the time to come onto the podcast and just have this conversation. And, I mean, always cheering you on from the sidelines. So thank you so much.
Pleasure is always mine, Brenda. And yes, I like what you're doing with this podcast. And I think for me, the direction with which you've taken it is quite different from the many others that seem to be more of, let's talk more from a historical perspective, or if it's not political, it's about the whole aspect of motivational speaking and that kind of stuff. So yes, well done, and collecting people views from a diverse African community. So kudos to you. I truly, truly appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you for listening to Viewpoints with Brenda. To keep the conversation going, follow us on Instagram at Viewpoints by BN and follow me on Twitter at Kasabiti. That's KASABIITI. To hear more conversations like this, follow the podcast, subscribe, like, and feel free to leave us a rating. See you next time.